Before starting this video, I do want to give a shout out to my patrons that support the channel. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are some great benefits for you if you want to look at the Patreon link down below. So with that out of the way, let's get into this week's video. What's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today on PubStomp MTG. Glad to have you here. Today we're going to be looking over this absolutely insane token doubler, essentially being Anointed Procession in a way where if one or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many tokens are created instead. I mean, there's a little bit of different wording because if an effect would be created one or more tokens, but this just straight up says if one or more tokens would be created under your control. This might be a little better than Anointed Procession because it does have a great ability of paying 1 and 2 Phyrexia mana, sacrifice 2 other artifacts and or creatures, put an indestructible counter on Mondrak, Glory, Dominus. So that's really easy. We can easily manipulate that because we're going to be making so many tokens on the battlefield with this deck tech, so it's going to be very easy to get an indestructible counter on Mondrak. So let's first discuss some ways we can get some tokens on the battlefield so that we can make our commander indestructible easily by that ability, but we do have a lot of different token options. We do have Myrel, Shield of Argive, and Adeline, Resplendent Cathar. These are easily some great additions to add into this list because they're basically by attack triggers. For example, so Myrel is essentially whenever it attacks, you're going to be making 1/1 colorless artifact soldier tokens on the battlefield, and the more soldier tokens you have attacking, the bigger army you're going to have. And especially with our commander, that's going to be really insane. Also, what's really nice about Myrel is also you have that ability of during your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifact creatures or enchantments. So that's very huge, and I really like that ability right here for that card. I do have a deck list of Myrel, Shield of Argive. If you want to go check that out, I posted the link above. I made a separate deck tech of that a while ago in the Brothers War spoilers. Also, I do like Adeline, Resplendent Cathar because it does have Vigilance, and its power is equal to the number of creatures you control, so that's going to be a big life swing for sure. And whenever you do attack, for each opponent, create a 1/1 white human creature token that's tapped and attacking that player or a planeswalker they control. So that's very easy to do. So instead of 3 tokens, say for example we have 3 opponents, we're going to be making 6 tokens because of our commander. So absolutely huge. If we do, however, want to push the envelope even further, we do have Ancient Gold Dragon. I know it's pretty expensive, but for what it does, it's absolutely absurd. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, which is pretty easy to do because it does have flying, you essentially have that chance of getting 1 to 20 blue dragon fairy creature tokens with flying on the battlefield. But with our commander, you could either get 2 to 40, which is absolutely absurd. So I really like this card in this deck list because we could overwhelm our opponents for sure. Speaking of overwhelming our opponents, I've seen this really close out games a lot. In my mono white decks, we do have Felidar Retreat. This absolutely has a great ability of whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may choose one. You can either choose to make a 2/2 white cat beast creature token or put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control and to gain Vigilance. So this could be really good, especially if you have a wide board already. You don't really care about putting another creature on the battlefield. You could just put a lot of 1/1 counters onto your creatures and buff them up even further to destroy your opponents. So I think this is a really great card and a pretty great finisher overall in my opinion. So let's go over some actual cards in the new Phyrexia set. I do feel like these are some great cards. Skrelv's Hive is absolutely perfect in here, especially being a Bitter's Blossom. So essentially at the beginning of your upkeep, you're going to be making 2 mites instead of 1 mite, and obviously they can't block, but they do have that toxic, so it's going to be really good, especially when we kind of overwhelm our opponents. We do also have Might Overseer, which is really great in here. It does have First Strike. It is a 4/2, but having that 4 power is really great with First Strike. And as long as it's your turn, creature tokens you control get +1 and also have First Strike. So this is absolutely perfect. But wait, there's more. This is actually a really crazy card for this deck because it has a lot of great abilities, especially with making more Might tokens. So with all this absolutely insane amount of token production, what do we want to use with all those tokens? What kind of way do we want to go with this? So we want to make sure we buff up our creatures so that we can continuously beat our opponents into the face. It's pretty simple. I know it's straightforward because our commander is making a lot of tokens, and so let's go forward with that by having Cathar's Crusade. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. That's very simple, especially when the amount of creatures are coming on the board. They're just going to get huge and huge and huge. And so let's also push that further, and let's talk about Eldrazi Monument as well. Creatures you control have +1/+1 and have flying and indestructible. We don't really have to worry so much about at the beginning of your upkeep you sacrifice a creature, because we're going to be having so much creatures on the battlefield. This is just going to stay here all the time, and so this is going to be definitely helping us close out the game. Speaking of which, we want to make sure that we could go through with our opponents and attack further on. We want to make sure we have Hour of Reckoning. This is absolutely a great card in here because our commander will get indestructible eventually, and then we can throw this in there, get a board wipe going, and then we can make sure that we can swing in with our huge army of tokens ready to battle. However, since we're going further about the token strategy, we want to talk about some card draw, because card draw is very important. We do have Benny Brack's Zoologist, which is absolutely a great card draw outlet. At the beginning of each end step, if you created a token this turn, draw a card. We're going to be drawing a lot of cards out of this card right here because we just have a lot of token producers on here, so obviously a great include. Welcoming Vampire is also a great one too because we have a lot of mites in here, so we might as well add that in here along with Toscasa's Welcome. He's essentially the same thing as Welcoming Vampire, but instead of 2 mana value less, we have 3 mana value less. Plus, on top of that, we do have Platoon Dispenser. This is a great card because at the beginning of your end step, if you control 2 or more other creatures, draw a card. That's very simple, very straightforward. We're going to have more than enough for that. And also on top of that, it does make a 1 colorless soldier artifact creature token, so that's great right there. Just for 4 mana. I mean, I know it's a lot, but if we're in a pinch and we don't have any cards in our hand, we could just continuously make tokens out of this creature, and it does have Unearth as well. So this is a great card as well to add into this list. However, let's go further and let's talk about some other game winners we want to have into this list, because there's actually a lot of them, especially in creature token based strategies. So we do have Giselle Goldmane. This is absolutely great because it does have First Strike, but it also does have a great ability of you pay 3 and 2 white, attack creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of attacking creatures. So obviously, if we have a huge army of mites or whatever, it's just they're just going to get super huge. No question about that. Giselle Goldmane is absolutely perfect in here. Also, again, because we're making a lot of creature tokens, Halo Fountain is absolutely perfect in here because it is a creature token maker itself. And also on top of that, you get some card draw advantage as well. And if you have 15 tapped creatures you control, you just win the game straight out. This is a great win con in the deck. Also some great value engines here too. However, of course, we had to add Elish Norn Grand Cenobite. This is great in here because other creatures you control get +2/+2, and your creatures your opponents control get -2/-2. So absolutely perfect in here, especially because she is the mother of machines. She is the leader of Phyrexia, so what better way to win than having Elish Norn lead your army to a way to victory. However, that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and watching this video. I'm going to be covering a lot of Phyrexia All Will Be One. This is my second deck tech covering a commander, but I feel like this is a really great commander by itself. I feel like this is going to be very popular in the 99 because it is a token doubler. A lot of people do like their tokens, so I feel like it's going to be more of a 99 card in a lot of different shells, but I wanted to cover it as a commander first. So let me know down below, what are your thoughts? What do you think of this new commander? And with that out of the way, thank you for stomping by.